It's time now for the Todd Leonard Show. Leave those negative stories behind as we focus on the positive and hear from those who give back and help others. Let's start your day with some inspirational stories. Now, here's your host, Todd Leonard.
Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's having a great Mother's Day. You know, on the journey of giving back, each week I bring on special people making the world better. If you like the show, subscribe on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast streaming services. Today's Mother's Day, and when I woke up this morning, I was so excited. I was going to be interviewing my great friends, the noted author Wes Moss and her husband Craig Lombardi, wonderful basketball coach. And I was thinking about Mother's Day, and I was reflecting on my mother. My late mom is in heaven. I think about her all the time. And when I was getting ready, I put on, my mom had got me a watch when I turned 50. My wife, happy Mother's Day to Jane. She's an incredible mother. And she had surprised me with the Rolex watch, and I wear it a lot, and I think about my late mom. And also, I was out with our great friends last night, and Leanne was mentioning about, her mom, and she was with us, and it was a great celebration. And I remember my mom always used to like to dress me up, and she says, Todd, you got to look good. So I have one of the shirts to Fakanabli. I think I pronounced that properly. So Fakanabli. So Wes Moss is an incredible author, and she's really a special friend of mine. I've known her and her husband for many years. I was actually at their wedding. And I know today's a very poignant show. Well, Wes lost her mom not that long ago. And Wes is a noted author. She has authored The Subway Stops in Bryant Park, the hit Flesh and Blood, Reflections on Infertility. She is a 3-time winner of the Faulkner Wisdom Awards. And she's just a great woman who is really someone special. She's also a teacher at local universities, Montclair State and William Patterson. And it's really an honor to have Wes on. I dragged Craig on 2 times already on the show. And Wes looks better than ever. I saw Wes this morning getting ready. I said, Craig, wow, you lost a lot of weight, and you look handsome, Craig.
Well, thank you, Todd.
And I didn't want to just tout your wife. Thank you, sir. Craig has been coaching Special Olympics basketball for like 20 years, a long time. And I was blessed to coach with Craig and Sweet Lou and so many wonderful guys. And Craig is one of those people in life that are just great people. He doesn't do the Special Olympics, and he's a head coach for a long time now. Took over the reins for me, and luckily you've made the program even better. But he's a great guy, and we're going to explore with Craig where he got that humanity too. Before we get into the substance of the show, which is about your careers and just making the world better, it is Mother's Day. And Wes, for you, and I know it's an emotional time. I know how much you love your mom, and I know she's going to always be with you. And Mother's Day, this is a hard day for you, but I know it's a day you probably rejoice. What's Mother's Day mean to you?
Well, I'm wearing a necklace my mom gave me. So like you're wearing the shirt from the watch that your mom gave me. And the shirt. Yeah. My mom was one of my 2 people, Craig and my mom, my closest friend. And so I think of her all the time. But of course, this year I'm thinking of her especially. She was part of every aspect of my life. And because of that, I think of her. I'm writing about her now. My next project involves her. I don't think I can ever get away from her. She's just sort of part of the fabric of my life, and I think will be forever. But of course, I'm thinking of her, especially today, because it's Mother's Day. Yeah. Well,
I know, like I said, it's an poignant, very emotional, very important show. And it means so much you're sharing on the journey of giving back with us today. Craig, what about you and your life? I know we were talking a little bit in advance of the show. When you think of your mom, you think of your dad. And I also feel the same way when I think about Mother's Day. As much as I think so highly and I love, and I just think about my mom constantly, like West. I also think about my dad, of course. But with your mom, it's Mother's Day. What about your thoughts?
Well, I'm a little prejudiced, but she was the greatest mom of all. She, and I know Wes got to meet her for really the last year of her life, but which was a little bit sad. But my mom was just a great person, and we talked about how did she maybe inspire me to do what I do. And I think maybe just indirectly, she did just the way she lived her life. She was always there for people and whatnot. But in thinking about what we were talking about, it's really, I'm inspired by what other people have said about her. I mean, I know all my cousins, she's their favorite aunt, and their spouses, they would always go to her with issues or help. My friends always thought she was the coolest mom, and she always had a great spread out there and everything. And then meeting her friends of her age, your mother was such a wonderful person. She did this for me. She did that for me. She's always doing things behind the scenes. And she was just, I don't know, I guess my favorite part, the house was always open to anyone. I mean, my brother had some eclectic friends, and they loved going to her. And I don't know, she was just a great person, welcomed everybody, treated everybody the same, and just did whatever had to be done out there, she would do.
Well, yeah, like you said, it's such a special day, Mother's Day. I also think about my mom, and like you said, Craig, she always so welcoming to everyone.
Yeah.
The house was always open. She always would cook, no matter what time I would come back from carousing with my friends. My mom would say, do you want something to eat? I would be like, Mom, look, we're good. We're going to go right in the basement. But she was always ready, to basically always had a loving heart and always really open.
We knew your mom a little bit, and she was also very glamorous. She was so beautiful and so elegant, a real inspiration in that way, too.
Well, that's why I got the fucking outfit.
Yeah, right.
She always tried to put some outfits together, and then she would say, what happened? She would buy, like, the shirt and the pants. I would never put them both together. And she said, you got to all do-dad it out. I miss my mom, like everybody does when their mom is gone. And that was one of the things, too, about this show. People don't realize you got to cherish your parents, your mom, your dad when they're with us. Because sometimes you don't realize when they can be taken, and then you look back and say, oh, wow, I should have spent more time. And mothers are the glue of the family. And thank you so much. My mom was, she always very modest. She was beautiful, and she always carried herself very elegantly.
Yes.
She was not tall, but she had like an energy to her, a savoir-faire, a style.
Yeah.
A style. And like I know now, even my wife says, look, when you go out, you got to put yourself together a little bit more. It's up to me. I'll be on a tank top. And then,
Jane has style too.
Jane can style it, no question. But, once again, like my mom was like very proud and was just a really beautiful lady. And thank you. So, West, I wanted to explore with you on the journey of giving back, because it is Mother's Day. You really are, someone I really admire. I know that, I've known you a long time. Thank you for putting up with me. And on the journey of the Todd Leonard life, too, which is interesting. No, but I've noticed your career has really evolved. I know you were, teaching, and then, you put your hat in the ring of life of trying to pursue a career in the literary world. And you're a big deal. I mean, you're modest, but no, I was reading about, the Faulkner Wisdom Award. That's beyond a prestigious award. And you actually won that 3 times. So tell us about your evolution. How did you get involved in the world of writing?
Well, I was raised by parents who were readers, and neither of them graduated from college, but they were real intellectuals, and they read to us. And so I've always loved books, and I've always dabbled in writing, even as a kid, but I never tried to get published. It was when I was married to Craig. So I didn't really start until I was in my 40s, when I realized I really want to try to write for real. And I take that kind of thing seriously. So I went back to school and I got my MFA at the university where I was teaching. And I learned a lot, and I came out still a beginner because I had only published a few small things, but really determined, and realizing at that stage in my life, I finally had some things I wanted to say, which you need to have to be a writer. At 20, I didn't have much to say, but at 40, I had lived a little bit and been through some things. And so I started to seriously work on writing this short story collection, which was my first published book. And it all takes a long time and a lot of faith, and revision and feedback. And then that was published, and it was very exciting to have my first book in the world. And the second book, which is actually dedicated to my mom, I think it's to my mom, her mom, her mom, and her mom. So it's a good book. It's a good book for Mother's Day.
Moms.
Which
book is that, Wes?
That's Flesh and Blood.
Oh, the Flesh and Blood. And for the listener, people watching on Facebook, shout out on Facebook. This is an incredible book.
Thank you.
Flesh and Blood. And we're going to really explore this. But Wes, if you'll permit, so one of the things also on the show, I like to inspire and motivate folks because life is a journey, and a lot of people have so many gifts in life, but they're afraid. They're worried about what someone's going to say. Now, what you've just told the audience, the listeners, is that you in your 40s decided to actually pivot and try to basically get into another career.
Yes.
And what was that like?
Well, really exciting, actually. I think one of the luckiest things that can happen to a person is to have a dream that they want to pursue, because it makes your whole life make more sense. When I wake up in the morning, I'm thinking about writing. And when I look to have time off, it's because I want time to focus on my writing. And so it was scary but exciting. And even now I started taking classes. I'm taking a playwriting class because I want to write a play about my mom. And I'm always learning. So I have to say, it changed my life having a dream, even though I'm a late bloomer, which I really am in so many ways, but it made my life, suddenly everything made sense. And having Craig, Craig's a very steady guy, and to try to be an artist and to pivot and change my career, I feel like I really needed the steadiness that Craig provides. And, his mom, one of the things he kind of touched on about his mom is that she was taking care of everyone. And I feel like part of Craig's dream is being useful. He gets so much pleasure out of being useful in the world and taking care of people. And so I feel like I wouldn't have been able to pivot if I didn't have the rock of a solid marriage to then say, I'm just going to try this crazy thing. And it's going to take me a decade. It's been 10 years that I've been writing seriously.
So, well, first of all, I wish my wife would say I'm useful, but listen, that's fine. I'm striving. That might be my dream. So, I have to say, and Wes, once again, your career, I watch it, and it's really been a beautiful thing to watch. Yes. And I love people following their dreams, what's in their heart, because they only live once. This is the other thing, too. Right. The other phrase, burn the boats, and you got to put your hat in the ring of life. Yes. Whatever it's going to be. Like for me, I'm busy. I'm very, very fortunate and blessed. I have a very successful practice in law. But I also know I love doing the show. It's something about it fulfills something inside of me. Right. Craig, since you're extraordinarily useful, yeah. and the rock. I have to say, though, Craig, you're also, and not to make you feel somewhat embarrassed, but you're one of those special people in the world that I've seen it firsthand. And as I've gotten older, I can really see, people doing it, not because they want people to know they're doing it, they just do it. Right. And I've seen you evolve in your commitment with Special Olympics basketball. And it's extraordinary for the folks that don't know. Craig has been doing this out of the goodness of his heart, coaching kids with disabilities, keeping the program not only together, but growing it, and really just so intricately involved in the program. And you should be so proud of your efforts. So I met you years ago, back in the day in Special Olympics, and you've been doing it so many years now. Craig, what about it that ignited in you the idea that you wanted to do something to give back and help others in need? Because once again, there's people with great ideas. They want to try something, but they're afraid. They're like, oh my God, is it going to work out? I'm going to be a fool. I have no idea what I'm doing. What made you decide all those years ago?
Well, I had to pivot from my original dream, which was to be shortstop for the Red Sox. So I had to pivot early on my dream. But I think with Special Olympics, it was just the perfect combination. I love competing. I love playing sports. I love staying, I love playing basketball especially. But then also, always, working with the community and working with, you call them kids. I mean, we deal with athletes who are age 16 to 50 but they're like a family to me. And so, the way this is my dream, I get to be involved with athletics, but I'm working with people, interacting with people, and it's just like it's being part of a big family, and it never gets boring. Every year is new, and you and I were there at the beginning and laid the foundation, and we built upon that a little bit, but it's just. I don't know if anyone's seen it. There's a movie out there called The Champions, which is Woody Harrelson is coaching a Special Olympics team. A little bit Hollywoodish, and not everything that happened in the movie happens in the Special Olympics, but a lot of it is true about the interactions between the athletes and the coaches. There's a coach that's blowing his whistle all the time. That's Coach Lou. There's also talks about, hey, they have to work with their employers to be able to play the games and whatnot. And I get to interact with these folks all the time, and so. For me, it's just I'm part of something bigger than who I am, but I also enjoy it. It just fell naturally with athletics and interacting with other people.
Yeah, but you know what? I want to get Wes' perspective, but the other beautiful thing about your involvement in Special Olympics is the parents that you come in contact with are the most remarkable, wonderful
Absolutely.
People. The parents are beyond grateful. Because you're treating the athletes with dignity and respect. You do get a little worked up on the sidelines. For the listeners, he's a little bit like Bobby Knight, maybe a white,
I think I have 3 technical fouls in Special Olympics, which is a lot.
When I was coaching with Craig, I said, Craig, take it easy. This isn't the Knicks. I mean, This is not but you take it to heart, and that's also important. Wes, from your perspective, I know that, you call, Craig the Rock. He's very extraordinarily useful. And in so many ways. No, but really, he's a wonderful person.
Solid and dependable.
Solid, like
and
a rock.
Loving.
But you've been supportive of his, because I know when I was able to go to some of the basketball banquets, the sacrifices that you make when he's there coaching. So for the listeners, how many teams do you have now, Craig?
5.
He's coaching 5 teams in Special Olympics basketball. It is a little bit on the banana side, a bit like a psychiatrist at times.
Yes.
You have a lot of different moving parts. You have to get everyone to basically be on the same page, but it's a beautiful thing to watch. You really let it grow. But Wes, you've also been, behind the scenes too. Like he's behind the scenes in your literary career. You also, how does that work in the household?
Well, I miss him during Special Olympics because it is 3 months or more where he's gone all day Saturday and all day Sunday. So I miss him. I like when he's around. I'm happier when he's in the house, but I think that it was the Special Olympics coaching. He was just starting when I first met him that first made me fall in love with him. I mean, his humility and his incredible community service, the combination, he does a lot and he never brags about it. He never talks about it. I was very moved by that, and that's why I married him, really. It was because of we share that instinct to try and make our little patch of the world a kinder place, and it's made for a really good marriage. So I do not complain about it. I don't even think to complain about it. I love that he does that.
So one of the things, Wes, that you talked about is your love for books at a young age. I read that your mom gave you a filing cabinet at the age of 7. Now, in our household, I'll be honest, we have a lot of things going on. Getting the youngsters, and we're blessed with 2 young kids. God bless our kids. And once again, happy Mother's Day to Jane, because she puts up with them, and I'm the 3rd kid, probably the most difficult one. Very unruly. But I'm talking about myself. No, but reading is so important, and I try to get the kids to understand. I said, the smartest people in the world, the most successful, they're readers. And once again, for the listeners, Flesh and Blood is an incredible book. And if I may, I have to aimlessly plug this. The Subway Stops at Bryant Park is an incredible book. Omir's Mangoes, which was an award-winning short story in here, is really incredible. But your foundation with reading and learning, and your parents being so supportive, and your late mom, God rest her. What impact, as you look back now, you've evolved, right? You started in your 40s into the literary world. I never ask a woman her age, especially, you know,
59. That's okay.
Just like me, we're just getting warmed up. We're just
getting started.
We're just getting the engine started. And don't put a wet blanket on anyone. We're doing our thing. But I understand that, you know, when you write something, you may have like 50 revisions before you're ready to turn it in. Where did you get that focus, the ability to kind of see things and want to write?
Well, you know, I'm the youngest of 4 siblings, and my parents read to all of us, but apparently I'm the one who wouldn't ever let them stop reading. So I think there's a certain personality that a kid brings to the mix, that even if your parents are reading to you, it's not every kid's cup of tea. But for me, it really was. It was the kind of thing where normally Dad would stop reading to the kids when they hit about 8 or 9. And we graduated to other books because I wouldn't let him stop. So we were reading. When I was in 3rd grade, Dad and I tackled David Copperfield, of all things. Like, we just were having a blast. And I loved language. We would sit with a giant dictionary on the bed between us because there were so many words we didn't know, and we'd look them up. And he was on the radio, as I said, so he was good doing characters, and I loved it. So when I decided to become a writer for real, I pictured writers as kind of heroes, and I decided if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do the best job that I possibly can. So yes, I do sometimes. I'm getting better as a writer now, so I don't have to do quite 50 drafts, but I work and I work and I work to make the story that I'm telling as beautiful as I'm able to make it. That's my goal, and I take it seriously because that's the pleasure for me. Is it's not how many books sell, although I know that's important to my publishers. It's the creating a work of art that is satisfying and important to me. And so I'm putting my best foot forward because I care about it and I want to make beautiful books.
Well, and these books are really, I know you got a few other projects in the works. We're going to get to all that. You know, so Craig, you know, I see West and I see the enjoyment, and she's chasing her dream. All right. I'm sorry the Reds didn't sign you as, you know, a shortstop. But you know, on a serious note, you know, West and you guys are wonderful as you know, a great team, great couple. When West decided in her 40s to basically say, I want to be a writer, I want to basically pursue my dream, what were your first thoughts?
Right. I had no other thoughts. We created a little nook in the house for her to write. Even when we first started dating, I was living in a small apartment, and when she would come by, I just created a corner for her to read and write and whatever. And I mean, you have a partner or anybody in life, if you work, whoever you work with, a colleague you work with, an athlete you coach, you want them to fulfill their maximum potential. And you find what motivates them, and then you encourage that. I mean, there's no other way really to live life and get the most out of life other than doing that. So I know that, and I was always there to support her. I never got involved with telling her what to write. She's the writer. I stayed out of that. That was her mother's job. Her mother would help her with editing things and whatnot. But, again, I want her to be happy, and she's only going to be happy if she's fulfilling her potential. And it was always interesting, and it happened in stages. It was, you know, sometimes people come up to us and they go, I have an idea for a book. How do I get it published? Well, you know, go to school, learn how to write, work it on the local newspaper, write a few articles there, then maybe get an essay published in the New York Times, and then start a book that it takes a little while. It's not really gelling, but then go another way, and then all of a sudden you have a book and keep plugging away. So I guess from my perspective, maybe it was hard work, but for her, maybe it wasn't hard work because you were doing what you love to do. So
Well, that's the beauty of your relationship, too, where, you know, you're both your cheerleaders for each other's lives. I mean, obviously with Wes, with you and your basketball, but also her literary career, which is, as I believe, is really starting to really flourish. But it's all the work that goes in before the world even knows what you're doing. How is that, though, Wes? Because this is the other kind of interesting aspect of why I wanted to meet you is... because it is a journey, and you're doing so many things, putting in all that effort, but the world doesn't even know you're doing it. So how do you stay with it?
Well, and maybe this is true for anyone with a dream that feels a little bit hard to achieve, like you're going to have to work for it, it's a matter of faith. It is every single day. I say this to my students. I'm teaching a grad class this summer for fiction writers. You have to have faith in yourself, even when it's a bad day, even when you write a lousy sentence, even when you're not sure exactly how it's going to turn out. You have to sit down every day and say, I have faith it's going to work out in my original idea, and to not be the world can be kind of a cruel and judgmental place. So I like to think that I don't pile on to my own creative energies in that way. I never allow negativity. I'm always encouraging, even to myself, but certainly to my students. I just say, just keep going. So it's a bad sentence, so you're not sure where, just keep plugging away. And so I feel like it takes sometimes hourly faith in the project and in your ability and in your dream. If you don't have faith in it, the world will not be responsive. So it's been less. Certainly there have been times when I've been frustrated, like my third book that's coming out. It took, Little Brown bought it, but they held it for 18 months before they bought it. Took a lot of faith. That was 18 months of faith.
It sounds like they held it hostage.
Well, it kind of felt that was a hard 18 months because there were a lot of things happening where there was the pandemic and other things happening. And so I just had to say, you know what? I'm going to trust the process. They're interested in the book. I'm going to write the next book and just keep moving forward in whatever steps I feel ready to do. And I think you can achieve a lot if you just every day, if you're not mean to yourself and you just keep plugging away. You can accomplish a lot in 10 years, it turns out.
Well, yeah, indeed you have, and you're continuing. And that's also the beauty of life is, you know, you got to keep on going, and you got to believe, right? Yes. You have to believe you can do it, because if you don't believe it, no one else will.
Right.
And you have to be your biggest cheerleader.
You do have to be your biggest cheerleader, absolutely.
Right. So listen, we're going to take a short break and be right back with Wes Moss and Craig Lombardi in 30 seconds.
The Todd Leonard Show is sponsored by the Leonard Foundation, whose mission is to support the children and families who are battling pediatric cancer and those in need of food and assistance, women's shelters, and other important social services in the community. They also proudly support those fighting pancreatic cancer. They feel it's vitally important to help those in need in our amazing community when they need us the most. Please join them in extending a helping hand and go to leonardcharity.org and donate now. Together, we can touch many lives.
So welcome back with author Wes Moss and Craig Lombardi, the Special Olympics coach extraordinaire. You know, Wes, because it is Mother's Day, and when I was getting ready for the show, besides being pumped up to see both of you, it's been a while. And, I mean, Craig puts up with me, but I haven't seen you really in a number of years. But I'm so proud of your efforts and what you're doing. Even without the success, just proud of the lady you are. Very dignified, really always been nice to me.
Dignified.
Dignified? Very complimentary.
Oh, yeah, it's very...
Actually, I need some of that. No, but I know, Wes, your mom was like your biggest supporter, and she believed you. What is the meaning from your perspective to have your mother as the biggest cheerleader?
Well, you know, my mother came from a writing family. Her father was a writer, and so in a way, just how she was around me and my writing made it seem completely plausible, which is important too, that people believe you can do it. So as you mentioned when I was a little kid, I had lots of papers I was writing, and Mom got me a filing cabinet for like my 7th birthday or something like that, because that's who I was at an early age. And Dad actually got me a typewriter for my 9th birthday and then begged me to stop typing so everyone could sleep. It was a manual typewriter.
Like the Smith Corona days?
Yes, like a noisy typewriter. And I was typing then into the night.
Wait, you're 9 years old and you're typing stuff? I have to say, my boys are on the iPad, but I can't say they're doing literary work.
Who knows? Does
Minecraft count? Sorry.
Sure.
All right,
yes, it all counts. So the fact that they were both creative, mental health. But then in later years, I would say to Mom, I'm writing about something difficult, or I'm writing about something personal, or I'm writing about something to do with the family. And she would say over and over again, write about everything. Don't worry about writing about something too personal. Just write what you want to write about. Because if I write about someone, like I've written an essay or two about Craig, and Craig shows up in Flesh and Blood pretty extensively, I let them see it first. I don't want to embarrass someone. But Mom has always said, I'm happy to read everything you write, but don't worry. She never edited anything in terms of cut something out or don't say that. She said, just write about everything. That's a very lucky thing for a writer to have. I know a lot of writers whose families are worried about what they're going to write about. That I never felt. And that kind of support made a huge difference for me.
May I make a comment real quick?
Well, you should also get some airtime. I mean,
no. I just wanted
to note it off there, but you get some airtime.
My dignified wife, yes.
Sorry, I got a little carried away. Sorry.
Dignified.
If I may just follow up, you're talking about the support her mother gave her.
Oh, am I ever going to live down the comment dignified? That's a nice comment. I'm going to shoot, may not totally fit it, but it was. I got caught up.
I'm going to pretend I deserve that.
Sorry.
But the thing about her mom, so she knew what Wes's passion was, and so and that's what she do. She would read stuff, talk to her about it, etc. But she also interacted with me. She knew what my passions were, so we would talk baseball. And she was also what's that?
Kielbasa.
Oh yeah, or I bring her a liverwurst and cheese sandwich on Mother's Day or whatever, because that's, she never got to eat that. So, but she would have inspired gifts for me, and she would know my interests and support my interests, and she would send articles, and you may be aware there's a college basketball pool I run, and she would participate in that, even though she doesn't know any of the teams, but she would pick them because they're from New Orleans or whatever. But the bottom line is, she was also very supportive of me, and in different ways. She would know what people's interests were, and she would always.
Yeah,
that's what she would.
Craig too.
Yeah. You gotta love Craig. I mean,
he's very dignified.
He's dignified. Not on the basketball court. I would not call him dignified.
Except for the technical fouls, he's dignified.
I've been in a lot of practices. It's not that dignified at times. So, and for the listeners, so Craig is a huge Notre Dame alumni. I mean, you gave me a number of Notre Dame shirts. I know I tried to play one basketball.
Yeah, you could handle
it. I show up and I got clobbered. I was wearing glasses. I got clobbered, cut my face.
Oh no!
Craig's like, "Where you go?" I'm like, "I'm bleeding. I'm done. I'm out of here." So I got roughed up in
Syracuse guys aren't as tough. I
did try for the basketball team. I regaled the audience a number of episodes before. So I want to talk a few different things, Wes, with you about your literary works. Before we get to Flesh and Blood, which is really a poignant, emotional journey, and I understand how emotional that would be in terms of just what you shared. And we're going to talk about it. A little teaser for the audience. The subway stops at Bryant Park again. This is a wonderful collection of short stories. I know you won a very prestigious Faulkner Wisdom Awards for Omir's Mangoes, but where do you get the characters from? Because it's like mind-boggling to me. Where do you come up with them?
Well, thank you. So I actually spent a lot of time in Bryant Park, and because my dad had an apartment there, and when he was in the last few years of his life, my mom and I would sit in Bryant Park and just drink our coffee every morning and watch people. And what happens, I learned in my writer's brain, this is when I was first writing, is I see someone who has some kind of an impact on me. I don't know them. I usually don't meet them, but I can't stop thinking about them. And maybe a year later, if I'm still thinking about them, I will tell their story. I make up a story to go with the person and something about them. So Omir's Mangoes was about a doorman in my dad's building who, when he learned that my dad died, turned into the corner and just started weeping. And I realized, doormen, even though you only see them for a few minutes every day, they become part of the family over the decades. And so I decided I wanted to write a story about that. I was very moved by that. And so it's really that I'm out in the world noticing people, and I tend to be drawn to the shy, reticent people in terms of characters, the ones who aren't kind of showing off or trying to be known. But I notice those people. I notice the shy person in the corner at a party, or in the park, the guy who's sweeping in the park, who I was enormously impressed by because he just, over the years of watching him, he was so into his job. Don't we all love people who are really into their work? And his job was sweeping up the leaves in Bryant Park, and he was so dedicated. I couldn't stop thinking about him. I wrote a story, with a character that was just based on this man that I never actually spoke to, but who was passionate about his job, even though it was a job that some of us might not think was impressive. I was impressed, and I wanted to tell his story. So it just comes from being in the world and being moved by people. And when I can't stop thinking about a character, I know, I have to write his story or her story. And that's how the fiction writing happens.
So just to get a little introspective on it, do you view yourself in that way of being kind of shy and introverted, and you wanted to put the spotlight on someone? I mean, you certainly come out of your shell. I mean, you're all over the place doing stuff, but as a person, obviously, here's another thing about people. Even though you could be wildly successful, you could still be shy and introverted.
True.
But why do you think you basically understand the human condition and you want to put the spotlight on those that are maybe not being noticed?
I don't know. I don't know. Those are also the people I like to be close to, the people who are, I don't know, the lovely humans of the world who kind of get overlooked, I guess. I'm not sure. I'm deeply interested in what motivates people. And I think also being a sibling, with 3 siblings, you get to know a lot of different types of personalities. My sister, when we were little, was always very, very shy, and things would affect her in a way that they didn't affect me. I was always kind of rough and tumble. If someone said something mean to me, I could just bounce right back up and keep going. My sister would take it more to heart. And I've noticed in my teaching, I'm always looking in every new classroom for the shy kid in the back because I think of my sister. So having siblings that you love, I think helps you love the world in a certain way. So maybe it's because of my sister, or because I know that the people who are shy are often quite magical, but you have to pursue them to see what it is that their own particular magic. So I guess it's from that. And I do think writers in general are noticers. So I am comfortable out in the world, promoting books and teaching classes. But the truth is, my happiest thing is to be in the house while Craig's there, but I'm up in the attic writing in my comfy clothes, and I just know he's nearby. So I think maybe I am an introvert, even though I'm not scared of being out in the world.
Well, it's just interesting, just the way you bring these characters to life. You know, Craig, she mentioned you're in some of her works, so this is also, in my opinion, could be potentially a source of some friction in the residence. I've been up to your beautiful place, a little hootenanny, a number of years ago. I do enjoy a little hootenanny, and I do like a little gin. I know you and your late mom would like to have a little gin, or maybe a lot of gin together. But Craig, what's your thoughts about, basically West is kind of bringing you to life too in some of her works?
Well, I will say for the most part, in Flesh and Blood, I come across very well. I come across much better than I think, so I can't complain about that. I have gotten a lot of compliments from, actually, my siblings have reached out to me and said, oh, we weren't even aware you were going through some of these things, or wow, I didn't realize you did this and that. So in that regard, I have no complaints. I will say this, the short story book, I've had some friends who come up to me and say, well, were you this character, or did you know this? Was this her doing this, or whatever? So
that's all fiction in the short story collection.
But
already putting the disclaimer out there.
Yeah. So far, I've this has not caused any issues or whatnot. I come across, as I say, pretty good in it, so I cannot complain. And
he gets to read anything with him in it. Like I had an article, an essay that was in the New York Times about one of our we had a series of miscarriages, which I write about in the book. And I wrote a piece for the New York Times about it. But before I even sent it to the New York Times, I showed it to Craig and I said, do you want, first of all, your name is in here. And second of all, I'm talking about something that's also your story. And if you don't want me to try to get it published, I won't. Because I have other stories to tell. I don't have to tell that story, and I don't want to invade his privacy. And he read it, and he came back and he said, I want you to change one word. There was a scene where I had him gasping in surprise, and he said, I didn't gasp, I sighed. And I thought that was a very writerly note, and I said, I'm happy, that's a great change, and I made the change. But as with Mom, I was often showing her stuff saying, are you okay with me trying to get this published? I'm happy not to if you don't want this out in the world. Every time they've both said, go for it, and I feel lucky. But I wouldn't ever, I'm not trying to settle scores in my writing, and I'm not trying to embarrass anyone. That's not who I am or how I want to live. So if he ever said no to something, I just would be fine with that, 100%.
Yeah. Most of her work, there are people we've met in our lives, and they'll inspire maybe a character in some of her fictional work. But, that's how being a writer is. You meet people and you take part of their personalities. I know you talked about that a lot. If I may add one thing, I thought that question you asked before was a great question about her noticing people.
We can talk all day long about that.
How great you are? No,
just had a good question.
No, I thought that was a very good question. I don't know if you've ever been asked that about how you notice people or whatever. And my social commentary, I think right now in this world, there's too many people who are loud and obnoxious and saying things that aren't right out there. And that's what everyone's listening to. We need to reach out to the people out there who are doing things for people, doing things in the community, not bragging about it. These are the real people out there. And that's who needs a voice. And that's what your show does. And I want to compliment you on that.
Well, Craig, I'm so happy.
Is he your new favorite?
I have to be honest. That's what I'm talking about.
Is he dignified?
I hope we're going to do like loops of this, just over and over until my wife gets nauseous, which is possible. No, but so before we talk more about Flesh and Blood, which is really a very, very, important discussion, I just want to talk just about Special Olympics, because I would feel so remiss if I didn't explore this just a little bit. This past season, you brought, 4 teams down to Wildwood for the quest for the gold medal in Special Olympics. And for the listeners, the tournament's held down in Wildwood.
Right, so the state tournament, right.
It's a Morris County-based program that you do an incredible job with. You, Sweet Lou, Bart, Tom Abezia. You got some other coaches, wonderful people. But you're the glue of that organization. But you were able to take 4 teams down I've been down there, so I know it's like it's like chaos. It's beyond bedlam. I mean, it's like I know the movie Champions gives a little sliver of it, but in the real world, it's a little bit different, right? You make it glamorous, of course, and maybe you lost
chaos. It's total chaos.
Right. In the sequel. No, but I just say, that's a huge commitment. So when you're driving down the Parkway, and, you're shuttling probably some athletes and you're kind of ruminating in your mind because you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, you got all these different games going on all at once, and it's a lot of moving parts. What are you thinking about when you're driving down the Parkway?
Well, driving down, you're just trying to, it's early in the morning. Hope you don't hit traffic. Hope you make that first game on time. And you just hope that the number of athletes you start with or the number of athletes you come back with, because it is, for the athletes, it's a wonderful time. They get to meet all the other athletes from around the state. We have one particular athlete, Kier, who he's like, everyone knows Kier, and they all group around him and whatnot. And so he's a Pied Piper of all the athletes. So you just hope. You're nervous. You don't know who you're going to play. We've been there. Sometimes you get in a bracket that is competitive. Other times the teams are way above you or way below you. You never know what's going to happen. So going down, you're just, okay, let's see what happens. We're coming back. I know I usually reach out to you these last few years. We come back, go, this is what happened. And there's always one game that maybe like this year we lost a nail biter in the top division. And, that gnawed at me for about a week, but talked it through with you. And Wes didn't really understand that part about it, but was so it's just an amazing experience, and the athletes are so excited. That's all they ever want to do is get to Wildwood. That's their goal at the beginning of the year. When you get down there, they have a lot of fun. It's not just games. There's also a lot of social stuff that goes on at night, and usually they all end up in my room. We watch the NCAA game or something like that, and it's my family. I don't have any children. This is my family.
Yeah, but Craig, to your credit and all the other wonderful coaches, you put your heart and soul in it. Yeah. But you're not doing it for people to notice you're doing it, but you do it day in and day out. And once again, God bless you, because, those Saturday mornings, because I was there too, from 9 until like 1 o'clock, and then games all day Sunday, that is a huge commitment. And to your credit, you just do it.
Yeah, but you know why I do it? This is why I do it. So we had we have a jamboree at the end of the year, and afterwards we have some pizza and stuff, and first, the parents recognize all the coaches for what they do, but then also our top level team. Like I said, we lost a close game, and I don't know why I'm so emotional about this, but during the event, I mentioned somehow, hey, I felt like we had a great year, blah blah blah, but we just missed. All the players came up. It just said good things about me, and it was just, I don't know why. It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
That's why you marry Craig, man. That's because you're the real deal, man. That's why I'm bringing you on the show, because you just said a little while ago why you like, what I do. You see, you got your wife all. Why she loves you. No,
it is
because that's the person you are, and there's too many loud voices doing like horrible stuff, breaking the world apart. You're bringing the world together. Right. And the other thing is you treating the athletes with dignity and respect. And that's all people want in this world, is to be treated fairly. And that's why the program is so successful under your stewardship, because you're treating people the right way. Yeah. You don't treat them with disabilities. You treat them like regular folks, and you do whatever you need to do to bring out the best.
They're not special because of their disabilities. They're special because of their attributes, to be honest with you, and their passion for the sport. They love the pure joy of the sport. They're not caught up in anything else, and that's the beauty of it.
Can I say one thing, too? It is Saturdays and Sundays. But Craig gets phone calls every day, every night, and Craig always answers unless he's driving and can't pick up. And he always answers with patience and interest. And so he can get 3 or 4 calls in one night from even the same athlete asking maybe the same question, or who knows.
And that letter we got from Danielle.
We got a beautiful letter from, it's
a family.
The payoff is much more than what he puts into it. And he puts a lot into it, but it adds so much meaning and so many relationships. And I should also mention that Craig's work is almost like volunteer work. He helps put together projects for low-cost housing for people in Essex County. When I first started dating Craig, someone came up to me and said, "Is this your husband?" And I said, not yet. She said, "Well, he helped me start my first daycare center. This is his life. This is how he lives his life at work and in his non-work hours. I really do believe he just wants to be of use to people and help them achieve their dreams, whether it's low-cost housing, a daycare center, a Special Olympics athlete, or his wife."
And maybe that all goes back to my mom.
And I think it does go back to his mom, who was just always helping every neighbor. Anyone who was sick, she was cooking for them.
Yeah, you want to know, and you're the first two guests, husband and wife, that cried on the show. It was a good tears. I don't like bad tears. I like good tears. Like, oh my God, if you're crying, like, how'd I get dragged onto the show? Maybe some guests have felt that way. No, but the beauty of parents they do set examples. If it's one thing to say you're going to do something. It's different when you do it and you put your hat in the ring of life, and that's to your credit. I want to just talk for a little while about Flesh and Blood. Okay.
Yeah. Flesh
and Blood. Let me hold this up again for everyone. This book, Flesh and Blood, it's such a poignant journey. You're into the world, unfortunately for you guys, a very personal thing of infertility,
right,
of miscarriages, and you having to undergo a hysterectomy.
Right.
But you shared it in such a way that I read it. Everybody who read it really was is very revealing, but people appreciated you discussing it, because this is another thing about life. Some things happen in life which are very painful.
Right.
But you guys weathered it as a couple,
yeah,
and you're stronger than ever. So,
yeah,
Wes, tell us a little bit from your perspective on why you wrote the book Flesh and Blood.
Well, I feel like one of the worst, most damaging things in this world is to feel so shamed by what is happening to you that you're silenced by it. And I feel like this is a topic, infertility, miscarriages that happen to a lot of people. I think I forgot the number now, but it's something like 20 million women in America have hysterectomies every year. It's a huge number. And when I first revealed that I was having a hysterectomy, everyone I know, including relatives who called me, all had a story that they'd never told anyone. A 70-year-old aunt reached out to me and said, "I've never told anyone this, but I had a hysterectomy." Well, I feel very lucky. Everyone has dreams that don't come true, or we'd all be astronauts or something. But so it's really, how do we deal with our dream not coming true? And for me, it was pivoting to other dreams, like writing, for example, that made it seem like my life is still amazing and wonderful. And if I can contribute to some language around a subject that shouldn't be shameful, is natural, and so many women go through it in isolation, I felt like since I'm brave about it and not ashamed of it, I kind of felt like I should, so that other people could talk about it. And if you're going to go through something rough, it's better not to have to go through it alone if you don't want to. So, it just so happens it's part of a conversation that seems to be, I'm part of a conversation that's a larger conversation. People seem to be talking about this more, and I'm glad, because it is natural, and life can still be great. Life is still great. I say to Craig probably 20 times a day, we are so lucky. We are lucky. We've got a great life. And so you can have both stuff happen that is a disappointment, maybe a profound disappointment, and even heartbreaking. And it is heartbreaking in some ways to not have kids. I think he'd be a great dad. But I can still be happy and sad at the same time.
Yeah, but Craig, he's a father to the kids with this, on Special Olympics. And, what you said, though, Wes, is very brave, very courageous, because a lot of people, candidly, they get kicked hard in life. They get clobbered, and they go into a shell, and they never bounce back. And I know in life, it's not just how hard you get hit, it's can you get up? You keep on going, because life will be mean. It will be vicious.
Yes.
I try to tell people, that's why you need a good support group, family and friends. If you do good for people, they're going to kind of huddle around you. But in life, there are stuff that happens. I don't care who you are, and you get clobbered, and you're like, oh, my God, how am I going to get up in the morning? And to your credit, you not only have come back, but you still see joy in the life despite the huge disappointment, which is a blessing. Craig, when she shared this, and I know you guys talked in advance, but what was your perspective? Because obviously trying to have kids are, usually important. Unfortunately, God just didn't work out. And she was going to basically discuss that journey, all the pain in somewhat graphic detail. Your book starts out, you're bleeding, and it's a crazy, scary time. But Craig, what was your thoughts when you heard that Wes wanted to share this with the world?
Again, just write it. I figured the worst case is something cathartic. If it didn't turn out into a book, at least it was a way to get it all out there, whatever you were feeling and whatever. And I got to share in it to a degree, and and reading over some of the stuff was cathartic for me too. So I don't know. Again, that's not my reaction to anything she wants to write. Go ahead and do it.
But this was if I may.
It's very personal. I understand.
This is almost as personal as it gets, because I know how hard you guys wanted to have kids. And
but
she says, putting the world, basically letting the world know your own personal story.
But again, it's something cathartic for us, but it's also something good for other people reading it. So let's get it out there.
And it's actually not that this was the intention, but it's made people in our lives closer to us in some ways, because like he said, his sisters and other members of our family have reached out to say, we didn't know what was happening. Well, when you were going through all of this, the truth is, I think we are all sadly kind of walled off from one another. We don't share what we're going through. It's a good lesson to know that when you do share it, whether it's in a book or just in telling each other, people rally, people want to know, and people want to care for us and for all of us. And if we can let people help us, like I have a chapter or two about the monks in the abbey near where we lived, and I just had reached out to them to see if I could walk on their property while I wasn't allowed to drive. They rallied, they called me, they checked on me. People want to help. And despite how the world sometimes is portrayed, I do have so much faith in our neighbors and our friends. And when they feel relieved to know the truth about one another, why can't we talk to our friends and loved ones?
So, and very obviously, this is a really powerful show for me, because I know you guys, I love you guys, you're incredible people, and you shared your story. And what I was reading is a lot of couples, women and men, appreciate you talking about it, because it helps them heal too, because it's not they're just alone, because this is another part of the world, the mystery of life is people don't think other people have gone through it, but they have, and you left that indelible mark that there is hope. I want you guys in 30 seconds each, because I got to do my closing. I'm going to do stuff about my closing because it's Mother's Day, but the legacy of life. Craig, what's the legacy you want to leave?
Wow. I just want people to smile when they remember me, and to be grateful for things that whatever we did together or for each other. And I hope I'm remembered my siblings remember me as a great brother.
Yeah,
you remember me as a great husband. And
And for me, it's my books and being able to take my family stories and make them sort of permanent. That feels like a great legacy to me, and one that I'm very driven to continue to do. So.
Well, amen for that. And our late parents, mom, dad, are proud of what you guys have done. And I just, I was getting ready for the show recently, and the song The Wind Beneath My Wings came on, and that meant well because I danced with my mom. She was sick at her house, as you may recall, and when we had the wedding at her house. And then I'm going to leave you with this Abraham Lincoln quote. All that I am or ever hope to be, I owe to my angel mother. God bless you and have a wonderful Mother's Day. Take care of each other. Tune in next week. Take care.
The Todd Leonard Show is sponsored by the Leonard Foundation, whose mission is to support the children and families who are battling pediatric cancer and those in need of food and assistance, women's shelters, and other important social services in the community. They also proudly support those fighting pancreatic cancer. They feel it's vitally important to help those in need in our amazing community when they need us the most. Please join them in extending a helping hand and go to leonardcharity.org and donate now. Together, we can touch many lives.